Okay, welcome back to our final presentation before the lunch break. Next up, we have Gpx Medical and their CEO, Hanna Sjöström. And with that, I leave over the word to you.
Thank you so much, and hi everyone. Thank you for your interest in Gpx Medical. My name is Hanna Sjöström, and I'm the CEO. And today I'd like to tell you about our innovative technology innovation that has potential to significantly upgrade the current standard of care for preterm-born infants. With our medical device that continuously monitors the lungs of preterm-born infants and instantly detect lung complications so that we can help save more infants. Gpx Medical was founded in 2016 as a spin-off from Department of Atomic Physics at Lund University in Sweden. And we are really that perfect proof of interdisciplinary power when a professor in atomic physics and a professor in medicine together found this completely new way of monitoring the body that can be compared to when the ultrasound was developed. We have taken this technology into our first product, our first medical device for continuous lung monitoring of preterm-born infants. And with this medical device, we are addressing a growing clinical need since we have such an increase in infants being born preterm. We're talking about as many as 15 million babies every year that are born preterm and 400,000 just in the USA. So we have a very strong clinical support for our innovation as an instant or very quick detection of lung complication has the potential to save lives and also save lives and save these babies' lives from disabilities. We're a listed company on Nasdaq First North here in Stockholm, Sweden, under the ticker Gpx Med. And we have the ambition to take our technology innovation to really improve the care of this vulnerable patient group. And I'll show you a quick video of our medical device. My name is Hanna Sjöström, and I'm the CEO of Gpx Medical. Did you know that as many as 1 out of 10 babies are born too soon and in need of intensive care for their survival? That's because the last organ to be developed in the human body are the lungs. And today's monitoring methods of lung complications are insufficient, old, and invasive. That's why we have developed Neola, Neonatal Lung Analyzer, for a continuous monitoring of the lungs of preterm-born infants with an instant detection of lung complications so that we can prevent long-term suffering and even death. Neola was developed to upgrade current respiratory healthcare globally. Look at Neola as a medical device, but also as a technology that in the future is able to predict and not only diagnose respiratory disease for infants, children, and hopefully even adults. Sweden has a vast legacy of medtech innovation, and we at Gpx Medical are aiming to be part of that life-saving Hall of Fame. So with Neola, Gpx Medical is entering the global market for neonatal respiratory intensive care systems that is estimated to be worth $2.5 billion in 2026 with a yearly growth of 5%. And there is a clear need for medical device in the neonatal care it's driven by a number of factors. First, we have an increase in preterm birth and an increase in the number of neonatal intensive care clinics around the world. There's also an increased medical need for better neonatal care. And that translates also into a high demand for technology innovation, but also a willingness to pay more for it. And we see a significant market increase, especially demand in high-income countries such as the US, Europe, and China. And this is because never before have we had so many infants born preterm. The fact is that preterm birth is the second most common cause of death for children under the age of 5 after pneumonia. So 1 out of 10 babies are born too soon. This means that many of you listening today have a child that's born preterm or will have. And if you look at the size of your palm, you can imagine your baby being just that size and the complications that they face when they enter this world. As many as 50% of the very preterm-born infants shows signs of what we define as severe disability at age 11. And preterm-born infants are very vulnerable because their lungs are not yet developed. So current monitoring methods are mainly chest X-ray, blood sampling, and sometimes ultrasound. Very insufficient methods. Mainly, they're just snapshots of what's going on inside of the lungs, but they are also slow to show results, and any type of handling of the infant is also disturbing for the child. So new modern technology that offers continuous monitoring is definitely needed within this field. That's why we have developed Neola, Neonatal Lung Analyzer. This is a medical device that is offering non-invasive 24-hour monitoring of the lungs with an instant detection of lung complications, to let us save more children and also let them live a healthy life without severe disabilities. We're currently in the regulatory process aimed at market approval, and Neola is a medical device in Class 2 for the US. So how does this work? Well, the innovative technology behind is called biomedical gas mask, which stands for gas in scattering media absorption spectroscopy. This is a revolutionary and unique method for measuring gas and composition of gases inside of the body. And gas mask relies on tunable diode laser spectroscopy and how light is transmitted through the body, the solid and the liquid components of the tissue, and the absorption of free gas molecules within the body cavities, focused at the lungs. So using gas mask for medical application is completely unique and a whole new measurement modality for medical applications. Patented, and all patents belong to the company. So we fill a very clear gap in today's standard of care with our continuous non-invasive lung monitoring that measures the changes in relative lung volume inside of the lung and also the concentration of free oxygen gas molecules in the lung cavities. So this is a real-time monitoring that enables the doctor to have an objective decision support in their diagnosis of pulmonary complications. Our technology is continuous and presents minimal disturbance to the infant. So the aim is to instant detect typical things that are very common in this care, such as changes in lung aeration, slow trends that are incredibly hard for the healthcare personnel to discover in time today, but also instant changes like a pneumothorax or an atelectasis, changes in the respiration due to mucus in the tracheal tube, for example, and changes in the respiration right versus left lung. Typical complications for this patient group. So what we're presenting here today is precision care with the potential to really upgrade current standard of care for these infants. And we believe that Neola will be able to contribute to decreased number of days in intensive neonatal care, which is of course extremely important, especially for the US hospitals. Faster detection of pulmonary complications, but also a safer withdrawal from respiratory support. And we have done market research with neonatologists in the US and in Europe, and there is a general interest and excitement for this kind of breakthrough innovation. And we have a business strategy that enables both recurrent revenues, but also holds the door open for an exit. We are now in a preparatory sales phase where we, through occasional sales of Neola, create an interest for the innovation with neonatologists that are early adopters of advanced technology. We sell Neola as a medical device, and it's one system for each bed. And we also secure recurrent revenues through the probe set that are disposable, so the probe sets that you place on the baby's chest. And in this way, we are securing recurrent revenues, and in parallel, we are preparing the company for an industry exit. And as a proof point of the great interest we meet from neonatologists and key opinion leaders within the field, we have now already, before a CE mark, sold our first Neola medical device to University College Cork and Infant Center to be used in a large investigator-sponsored clinical study of infants. The study is led by Professor Eugene Dempsey, and it's currently ongoing and includes up to 100 infants. In the current phase, they start with healthy newborns and then continues with infants in different weight classes and with different type of respiratory challenges. And the technology is groundbreaking, and key opinion leader Professor Eugene Dempsey and his team at Infant Center at the University Hospital in Cork are convinced that Neola has the potential to significantly alter the way that preterm-born infants are monitored today in neonatal intensive care, especially preterms that are on mechanical ventilation. Not only can we potentially monitor them in real time, but also reduce X-ray exposure and limit blood tests. And this is also supported by the positive results coming out of Infant Center of the first 50 of the 100 babies that in the ongoing clinical investigator study in Ireland. So clinical researcher and neonatologist Jurate Panivene presented the results and conclusions from the first 50 babies in the US in a couple of weeks ago. And the results from the clinical study confirms that Neola works very well for measurement of newborn infants' lungs. That really strengthened our perception of Neola's potential within intensive care moving forward. So these results are highly encouraging. We're also gaining a lot of international awareness with our innovation and won the silver medal in Healthcare Innovation World Cup at Medica Fair last November amongst 300 startups from more than 66 countries, selected by an industry jury on the level of innovation, commercialization, usability, and sustainability. So we follow an established plan and reach our milestones. We now look forward to our next major milestone with validation of Neola under 2022 and 2023, the ongoing large clinical study and international market launch after regulatory approval towards end of 2023. Milestones are very important to us, and in 2022 we are mainly working with technical verification and preparation of clinical validation, the regulatory process with authorities in Europe and the US, and also, of course, preparing for commercialization and our market entry in the US, concerning a lot of price investigation, but also reimbursement. So finally, why invest in Gpx Medical? Well, there is a great clinical need. With Neola, Gpx Medical has the opportunity to create new conditions to really upgrade today's standard of care in neonatal intensive care through better care, fewer days in intensive care, and at the end of the day, healthier babies that can live a healthy life. So we are also confident in our proven technology. We have a great team on board, and we're very commercially driven. So with that, I hope that you would like to join our journey. You're always welcome to contact me, and please do also follow us in social media. Thank you so much for listening.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. I think we have time for a couple of questions. If we start with the recently published initial study with results from 50 infants, 48 of those were successfully monitored. But thinking of those 2 that weren't successful, what can you tell us about those? Were they more like complex cases or high risk, or why did the Neola fail to monitor those?
It was a situation where the babies were screaming a lot, and they were also needed to breastfeed during that particular session. So because we were measuring for a shorter period of time, that's why the results weren't successful in those 2 cases. However, it really has no connection to the technology that has really been validated by this clinical study. So 48 out of 50 in this clinical setting, I would say, is very encouraging results.
Okay, that's good to hear. And moving on, I mean, Getinge, one of the world's leading providers for ventilators for neonatals, is talking a bit about the next generation of ventilators with some sort of monitoring functions. So is there any risk of them innovating something similar that would sort of provide the same function as you do?
I would say it's a great opportunity that many of the large industry companies now are focusing more on ventilators and smart ventilators. Our technology is, of course, also a perfect technology to integrate into ventilator to make the ventilator smarter. Typical this type of groundbreaking innovation that comes from the university seldom comes from the large industry companies. So what we see is of course also a general interest from industry company in our innovation, and I'm sure that there are many watching us right now on how our clinical studies are going and how we can continue to develop.
And just on the go-to-market strategy for the US market, I mean, is the business model going to be that you place the Neola at hospitals for free and then generate consumables revenue, or do you also see a potential for capital upfront sales?
Definitely capital upfront sales. We have sold our first medical device for 60,000 euros in Europe. We think that is probably a pretty good entry point for the European market, where our price studies shows that we can most likely take a higher price for the US market, both a cap investment where you have 1 Neola per baby, and we're focusing on 26,000 beds in the US that could be potentially available for a Neola system. And then, of course, also making sure that we have that recurrent revenues through the probe sets that are disposables.
Okay, and just looking at the sort of reimbursement situation, is there any sort of current standardized reimbursement for a similar procedure or treatment that can, I don't know, show like a guidance on what kind of revenues this could generate in the future?
So there's really been a lack of new innovation within this field, which is something that we hear a lot when we talk both with the FDA, but also with hospitals around US. So we will start with a model where we really go through the neonatologist and and go that way through to the hospitals where we start out with a few units in the clinic. And then, of course, our ambition is that in the future, no doctor would like to have a preterm-born baby that's not monitored by Neola.
Okay, I think that was all the questions we had time for today. I would like to thank you for participating. And now we will take a 30-minute lunch break before having Kulenia at 12:30.